So, Susan, one of the things I found when I work with my customers is that their salespeople often kind of, when they're first meeting a prospect, they jump over the all-important activity of establishing the credibility, right? Their credibility in the eyes of the customer or the prospect. Not just their own personal credibility, but certainly the credibility of the company, right? And so we take time to talk about the four basic components of establishing credibility, right?
Yeah. And I think that's critical because credibility is a key driver for building trust. And the whole idea is if you can build trusting relationships with your client, you can earn the right to ask those tough discovery questions. You can earn the right to eventually do business with them. But it all starts with building trust and credibility.
It's true. And we know these components and we can't imagine not doing it, right? But it's interesting when we see that it's not happening.
Right.
So what's the first step?
So the first one is probably the easiest. That's kind of the ticket to entry, and that's propriety. And propriety is really business etiquette. It's, showing up to a meeting on time. It's being prepared, having an agenda, looking the part. You wouldn't show up at a construction site in high-heeled shoes. Well, you wouldn't show up.
No, I wouldn't.
I wouldn't
No,
either,
never
for
have.
that matter.
Yes.
But also, you wouldn't go to a business meeting downtown, in boots and jeans and a hard hat. So that's the easiest probably piece of credibility is propriety.
It really is, that they have a basic level of comfort with you, right? The second level is competence, right? And this is one that often salespeople say things should be the lead. It's important. It's critical. And so what competence is you conveying the capabilities of your company, right? Literally what you do, and also what you personally do and what's your role in delivering on that competence. These things are really important. They want to know, do you know what you're talking about?
Exactly.
Right.
And as part of that, being able to introduce yourself professionally to the client, who you are, what your role is, the value that you bring, that's all part of demonstrating competence, as well as any information that the client may want to know about your business.
Absolutely.
And then the third one, Tim, is commonality. And this one's interesting because most salespeople would say that that's not as important as competence, but it really is. And the reason is that customers expect us to be competent. But commonality is just that little extra something that differentiates you. So assuming, all is competent, it's what do you have in common with that customer? Have you done business before with them in their industry, that you might be able to leverage? Do you know some of the same people? It could be commonality on a personal level, but it should certainly also be on a professional level that you might be able to leverage.
In the most basic level of sales, we think commonality is like, oh, you find out you both like French poodles. Right? No, this is about fundamental commonality. We are on the same page when it comes to the challenges of a workplace like mine, or the interpersonal challenges, if that's what we're talking about. You bring something to the table, you're very familiar with it, you understand what we're going through.
Right.
So the fourth, and sometimes considered sort of the granddaddy of all when it comes to establishing credibility, is intent. Right? We can have those other three, propriety, right, competence, and commonality all in place. But if they don't trust our intent, right, then we're not as strong.
You can read that a mile away.
You can.
So what are you leading with? Are you leading with, do you want to help me or do you want to sell something? Right,
exactly. And so the important thing about his intent is that it has to be expressed. Right? You have to express that intent, and you have to ask that person across from you, does this intent work for you? Right? Yeah. And it means for the intent of the meeting, this moment here, this is what I intend to do in this moment for this here, and potentially as your conversation moves forward, what's the intent for how we would work together? Right? What is important to me about, bringing value to you? Declaring that intent out loud is absolutely critical.
Definitely. And, it's a bit of a dilemma for salespeople because, your intent, certainly your salespeople are paid to sell.
Yes.
But if you lead with the intent of wanting to help and wanting to understand, most salespeople, I think really if they do it well, all salespeople will find that they are beyond successful in terms of sales because they attract the kind of client that wants to do business with them.
No question. So there it is. Credibility is made up of propriety, competence, commonality, and intent. All four should be in play before you even begin to move forward. But imagine if you get them all together and they look back at you, the customer or that prospect looks back at you and says, okay, can I tell you more about our challenges?
Right.
That's the sweet spot. That's credibility working.